find out a whole lot of really useful information in it. Now, as a matter of fact, there's a part of their site that lists Superfund in my community, and you can click on that link and it will tell you more about Superfund sites in your state, in your county. There's also a very cool site that they have to go with Superfund called EnviroMapper, and that's on EPA.gov, and you can get a map of Superfund sites in your community or in your state. That's also based off of the records that the EPA has. Now, say you go to their website and you read all the information about a Superfund site in your town, and you think, well, I'm just not satisfied, I want to know more. Well, that's when you can do your own original research, if you like, using the Federal Freedom of Information Act. Now, the Freedom of Information Act is a federal law that applies to records held by the federal government. It says that we as U.S. citizens have broad rights to look at a whole lot of records that the government creates and possesses. What you would do is basically write a request letter to the EPA and ask to see records pertaining to that site. Now, if you go to their website, you will see on EPA.gov that if you would like to request information about a particular Superfund project, you can send your FOIA request to the regional office for EPA that deals with your geographic region. For example, Texas and some other states are in Region 6. So if I want to know about a particular Superfund site here in Houston, I might send a FOIA letter to the EPA's Region 6, and they have on their website the address of the FOIA officer, that's the government employee who deals with FOIA, at each regional office. You can send your request directly to them. So that's very handy. Now, you can also use, remember we talked earlier in the broadcast about the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press. They also have a very handy website that you can use that will allow you to generate or write your own Freedom of Information Act request letter. So if you go to rcfp.org, you can go there and it will prompt you for the information to fill in the blanks about what kind of stuff you're looking for, and it will give you the proper formatting and wording, and then you can just print out your letter and mail it to the address listed for the FOIA officer for your EPA region. Now, we want to go on a little bit and talk about not all environmental hazards are Superfund sites or qualify to be covered under Superfund. A lot of times you may be curious to know more about pollution that's coming from, say, not a old abandoned industrial site, but maybe pollution that's coming out of a plant that's still very much operating, where people work every day, and it's right there in your town. It has maybe a big smokestack and generates a lot of stuff in the air that smells bad, or maybe it has a big culvert in the creek or in the river in your community, and it it pours wastewater out there, and you want to know what's in that wastewater because you're concerned it may not be clean. Well, there's another great thing that you can look up on the EPA website, and we're going to talk now about the Toxic Release Inventory. People call it the TRI. Basically, the EPA requires plants, industries, factory sites, basically anybody who generates or puts out toxic chemicals into the environment. Generally speaking, they have to report to the EPA how much pollutants they're generating. And you can get this data right off the EPA's website. Now, I tell you, I remember back in the old days, back about 15 years ago, when the internet was just a rumor, and just about anybody who was online was either on AOL or CompuServe. I remember looking at some of this TRI data through America Online, and it sure did look complicated, and it was very hard to get access to. But if you go to the EPA's website today, they have really made it a lot easier for the average person to navigate and understand. And I think you can find a lot of interesting stuff in the TRI data. Now, you have, if you go to their site, you will see where they express the amount of pollutants that are put out. They have pollutants put in the air, pollutants put in the ground, and pollutants put in the water in 3 categories, and those are reported in pounds per year. The TRI data is updated yearly. I think the information that's available on EPA.gov right now is current for maybe 2008 or 9, and I think the next data release is probably in December of this year. You can go to the EPA's TRI site, which is EPA.gov TRI, but they also have a very useful sort of microsite there that's called TRI Explorer, and that's EPA.gov TRI Explorer, very easy to get to, and they've made it so handy you can type in your zip code and look by your state or your county, and it will tell you the TRI releases for your community, and they can break it down by site, which is the particular plant or factory or whatever that's generating the pollution, or you can look by chemical. For example, say you have a real interest in just dioxin or just benzene or something like that. You can also look and just see how much of that chemical is being put into the environment in your county. So that's very useful, and I think that site's pretty easy for most folks to navigate. Now, keep in mind, when I was a young, naive reporter, I used to look at the TRI data, and I thought that, the EPA had some sort of monitor or measuring stick or something at every factory, and, they were ticking off every time this more and more pollutants were put in the atmosphere. It turns out that's not really the case. The numbers you see from the TRI are actually, as I understand it, they're self-reported by those factories and industries. So they have to actually report that information to them by themselves to the federal government. Now, Superfund and TRI are ways that you can find out a lot about environmental hazards in your community. There are 2 major ways, but there are some other sites that you can look at that are actually not run by the government, but they are cases where people have gotten data from the government and made it easy for you and me to look at online. So let's go through just a very few of very good examples, and these are all various types of environmental research. Agriculture, very important component of the environment. If you'd like to know more about farm subsidies, an organization called the Environmental Working Group has used the Federal Freedom of Information Act to get databases of farm subsidies for the past several years. And they've put that online, and it's searchable. It's a very easy site to navigate. That's at farm.ewg.org. You can look by your county, by your zip code, by crop, see what's being grown and how much subsidies have been given out for it. Another really cool site that has a lot of environmental information on it is the New York Times' Toxic Waters Project microsite. This is a really cool site. The New York Times has done a whole lot of investigating in the past couple of years about water quality all around the country. And if you go to this landing page, sort of a site within their site, they have links there where you can search several very interesting databases that are related to water quality. For example, you can search their database that looks at contaminant levels in drinking water all across the U.S. You can also look at a database of Clean Water Act violations there. So that's another good site to bookmark. Hazardous waste spills. Sometimes there are companies and industries that in the process of doing their business and making whatever they make, they have to use very hazardous chemicals, and if they drop some of those on the ground, they have to report it to higher authority, and those reports become public to some degree. You can go and look up databases of hazardous waste spills all across the country. This is another third-party site. It's an organization called the Right to Know Network. They get databases from the federal government, and they make them available to the public. You can search it on their site. They're at, I believe it's rtknet.org. You can look up hazardous waste spills, and also permits for generating, handling, and transporting hazmat materials in your community. And one other site, of course, you know, if you think of the environment, I tend to always think of things like things glowing in the dark, you know, nuclear waste plants like Homer Simpson and the fish with three eyes. Nuclear waste disposal is very interesting to a lot of people who are concerned about the environment. And you can look up nuclear waste disposal information. That is actually maintained not by the EPA but by the Federal Department of Energy. And if you go to their site for the Office of Environmental Management, you can search their databases for where nuclear waste is disposed of and how much nuclear waste is being taken to those sites in a given year. I believe that's em.doe.gov. So those are some other good sites to keep bookmarked. And always keep in mind as well that, like I said earlier, the federal government, federal law really sets up a lot of regulation for environmental issues, but the states have the leeway to impose more strict regulation if they see fit than what the federal government does. So it could be that your state environment